Let's try to power this guy back on. Hope it don't blow up on me. There's nothing worse than that. I was getting ready to switch that thing on and that scared the crap out of me.
This video is brought to you by Sporlan. Quality, integrity, and tradition. Just want to give a little context. This video was filmed back in June of 2020. You're going to recognize this location. You're going to recognize the sound of the exhaust fan. Because I recently did a video since then. I actually forgot about this video and found it in my archives and was like, hey, I never filmed or never published this one, so threw it up here. Also wanted to say, if you haven't already and if you're interested in supporting the channel, check out my website, HVACRvideos.com. We've got shirts, hats, beanies, sweatshirts, all available if you want to support the channel. I'm wearing the flag design shirt. Hence the flag on the sleeve. This is the hat. On the flag design, on the back of the shirt, you'll see it says HVACR videos. And this right here, we actually also have the flag design in a women's shirt. So this is a women's fit V-neck shirt. We have other shirts on there too. Check it out if you guys are interested. I really appreciate you. Let's get on with the video.
My service call today is on a reach-in cooler actually in the kitchen, and it's been a problematic cooler a lot. I've had nothing but problems with it. In fact, I recommended that the customer replace it because of the poor design. It's a custom unit. It's horrid. I actually gave him a quote to make it work, but the quote was so ridiculously expensive I knew they were going to end up replacing the unit. And what happened? They didn't replace it. They had someone else come in, the guy that actually made the reach-in, and he fixed it supposedly, but no, here we are the following summer and it still doesn't work right. So what he had done was he just changed the condensing unit on it. Came out today. It's June 5th, so we're having our first kind of like warm beginning intro into the summer, and it's working fine. I mean, in the morning it's great. Box is down to temp, everything's cool. So I can't really do too much more on the reach-in because it's working, and I've gone through it a bunch and I know it. But what I can say is I started asking the manager questions. Hey, is it hot in the kitchen? That kind of stuff. And he said, yeah, it's been a little bit warm. So I'm going to jump into this kitchen AC. Now, I know that this customer, we have not done a preventative maintenance for, I'd say, 4 months now. Maybe. We'll find out when we pull the filters out. Okay, but I predict these filters are going to look insane. So I went downstairs. I gave it a full call for cooling. So yeah, the last time we did a preventative maintenance was on 1/22, and it is now June 5th. So first and foremost, those filters are destroyed. So I'm gonna pull those out. We'll get a look at the evaporator coil, we'll get a look at the belt, and we'll do a full analysis on this AC. All right, we're gonna start by taking a test-in measurement. This is the first stage, okay? This is before I've done anything. And this is how we're operating. Now it is pretty cool outside. Pay attention to my superheat, it's a little bit high. Outdoor air temperature is 65 degrees and there's a slight drizzle. Temperature split is not bad, but look at the airflow. This is a 12.5 ton, mind you. There's my delivered capacity right now. Notice that it's going up and down. Look at our total external static pressure, 1.4. Now the unit just satisfied, okay? What I'm gonna do is go ahead and turn it back on and do a test on the second stage, and then we're gonna clean the unit up and compare the numbers. All right, we just started up the second stage. Now let's go ahead and have a look at what's going on here. Starting with somewhat low suction pressure, a little bit high on the head pressure, but again, the unit's still kind of stabilizing out, so we gotta give it a few minutes. The supply and the return is going to be about the same. The airflow is kind of bouncing back and forth. Delivered capacity is going really high right now. Again, the system needs to stabilize before we really analyze much. Notice that, again, the airflow is dropping up and down. Okay, at this point, we're going to go ahead and shut the unit down, clean it up, clean the unit thoroughly, and then analyze it again after that. All right, I ripped this thing apart. The evaporator's not horrendous, but it's dirty. You can see, I don't know if you guys remember, but I'm pretty sure I might have done that repair. I know I did it on one of these. I might have done a repair on one of these a long time ago. It was here or another restaurant, same chain, just, I think I did that one time. I don't think they wanted to change the AC. Anyways, it's not too bad. We're gonna brush off all the big lint, and then we're gonna clean it with some cleaner and then sanitize it when we're all done. We've got a split row condenser coil, pretty dirty on the inside. Again, got to make sure you know these things are split. Pretty much anything in the commercial industry over 5 tons has got a split row condenser. It's pretty safe to say. Being careful, I gotta check on that, make sure we're not damaging that. I need to loosen these screws. And check this belt out. Nice. That's some nice work. So we're gonna get this guy cleaned up. All right, before we clean the condenser, we're gonna give it a pre-rinse. Just get it nice and wet, rinse off all the big debris. And then we'll get in there with a cleaner. It really doesn't look that bad from the outside, but there was a little bit in there. So the cool thing, or the important thing you want to understand when you're cleaning these things, I prefer to have a wet coil. I find that it gives the cleaner and the water an easier path when the coil's wet, and then it travels down and flows a lot easier. So always wet them down before, and then if you're going to apply cleaner, apply it after that. And yeah, pretty much it. So I'm gonna get this guy wet down, and then I'll show you the cleaning process and all that. All right, we're working with the Viper condenser coil cleaner today. This is the, I think they call it their Venom Pack. Yeah, Venom Pack. And super cool because you can make, I mean, you may mix it a little bit stronger, but you can make 9 gallons of condenser coil cleaner with that one bag. And guys, when you look at the price of that bag, you're gonna be blown away. I think it's just a little bit more than 1 gallon of normal condenser coil cleaner, if I remember right. You guys got to check out the prices on that stuff. Check your local supply house. They're starting to pick up their stuff at a lot of different places. But one thing I want to point out too is it really doesn't take much of this cleaner. And I'm going to use their foam gun. While it looks very similar to another manufacturer's foam gun, it's not. The concentration or dilution ratios are way different. So even if you guys use this coil gun with another manufacturer's cleaner, you're gonna find out that you use a lot less cleaner and you can control your waste. One thing that I've always been concerned about before I started using the Viper stuff was how much cleaner I went through. And as a business owner, that cost is high, you know? But with this, you can control your amounts. Now, say it's not coming clean, you can make the concentration even more. You can change the dilution ratios and you know, go from there. The other weird thing, and it's just kind of funny, is on this gun, E is the strongest setting. On the competitor, the other gun, A is the strongest setting. So on this one, A is the lightest concentration, basically. So we're gonna pour it in there. You also don't need to fill this entire gun up because you're gonna find that you'll use a lot less of the cleaner. So I start with maybe, like, you know, depending on what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do condenser and evaporator with this cleaner because I don't have evaporator cleaner on me right now, and it's okay. You can use this on the evaporator. You just got to be careful, make sure you rinse it off and everything, but it's not gonna etch the coil like some of the other cleaners and stuff like that. So we're gonna use this, and then it'll get us by, and then I have a sanitizer for the evaporator when we're done. You can see how much cleaner I put in there, barely anything. And I'm gonna start on the A setting, which is the least amount of cleaner being used. And we're just gonna get the whole condenser now. This condenser came pretty clean after I rinsed it off. So we're just doing a once over with the cleaner. And we're gonna lay it on there. Now it doesn't foam up like crazy unless you change it to the higher dilution ratios, but what you're gonna find is it does a pretty darn good job of cleaning. And I really like that it's microchannel safe too, so I only got to clean one cleaner in my van. I ended up running it on the C setting, and I got some nice foaming action going on. And I mean, literally I cleaned the entire condenser with that small amount. You can see it foams up really nice, penetrates. Now I'm doing it from the opposite side now. I've already done it from the inside too. So I'm spraying it up here, into there, getting it all in here. But I mean, yeah, you can see it pushing right through. Doing a good job. Now remember, this stuff isn't going to etch the coil. It's not a brightener. It's just a good solid cleaner. When it comes to the evaporator, I gave it a good brush, got the big chunks off. Same thing. I like to start from the bottom, get it nice and wet, work my way up while making sure that it's actually draining. I pulled the drain apart. The drain's destroyed too. We're gonna have to talk to them about that. But all we're doing is saturating the coil, because if you don't, if I started on the top of this and sprayed it with water, the water more than likely is going to drip off and go down into the duct instead of running down the coil because there's dry surface. So start at the bottom, work your way up, get it nice and wet. Once we get it nice and wet and we've rinsed it a couple times with water, then we're going to put a cleaner on there and then make sure that it rinses all the way down. Now I did mention that I'm going to use the Viper condenser coil cleaner in the Venom pack. Okay, it says condenser coil cleaner. You have to be very careful. If you use some of the other manufacturers' condenser coil cleaners, they will clear out a building. Okay, this is a very pleasant smell. It's not going to make anybody sick. Well, theoretically, I'm not going to guarantee that, but I mean, you know what I mean. It's not, you know, some harsh smell like some of the other cleaners that'll like eat your boot off or anything like that. This is just a nice mild cleaner. And it actually is rated for condenser or evaporators, and they actually say that if you wanted to, you don't even have to rinse it on an evaporator because it's self-rinsing on an evaporator coil. Okay, not on a condenser coil, but on an evaporator coil, because the theory is that there's a condensation dripping down the evaporator, and it's going to self-rinse the cleaner off. Now you got to be careful though, like I said, make sure you understand which cleaners are meant for what, and be careful with a lot of other manufacturers' cleaners. Again, starting on A, you can see we have a nice good amount of stuff coming out. I'm just working my way up nice and slow, trying not to get it down into the ductwork. Just letting it rinse as it's going down, letting it penetrate. This one doesn't need a really high concentration at all. Just being careful not to overflow the drain pan. Like we're coming out nice and good right there. I don't see the need to pull the top, but what I did was go to the other side and sprayed around the blower assembly as best as I could from the other side, just getting the cleaner on there. We're just letting it sit for a few minutes, and then I'm going to give it a good rinse, and then we're going to sanitize it. We have again, I've been super stoked with a lot of their products. They have a new sanitizer called Strike Back, and it's really easy. It comes in a gallon bottle, and we could run it over this after, and it'll just sanitize the coil and help to ease people's feelings, kind of as my thing, like as a selling point. So if I'm doing an evaporator coil cleaning, I'm going to put on the invoice that I used a sanitizer to kind of, you know, try to kill any viruses or bacteria that would possibly grow on the coil after we were done, you know, kind of a thing. So it's just kind of a cool selling point, I guess. It's kind of hard though, because like I guess on the residential side, you guys will probably have a bigger thing. I'm on the commercial side, so maybe it's just for more for my peace of mind, or for like a general manager, because honestly I don't know that commercial, you know, facilities managers and stuff are necessarily like into the whole sanitizing thing, but it just makes me feel better because I can know that, you know, when I was all done, I sanitize it. Kind of similar to how when I work on an ice machine, you use a sanitizer after. Same thing. All right, so this is the sanitizer that they have, and you literally only need 1 ounce for this container. So I'm gonna fill it up with water, and then we'll spray it all over the evaporator, and then we'll be done. I give it a rinse and everything, so this is just our sanitizer, and then we'll be done, put the unit back together, and finish going through it. So this, we're not gonna rinse off. We're just gonna spray it all over the place. Probably start from the bottom and work my way up. Spray it on both sides, get it all over everything. Probably should wipe that off too, huh? All those little chunkers. I'll do that real quick, and then we'll just spray it all over everything, and we'll be done. This is after it's been running for a little while. This is the first stage. And let's see what we got. We got kind of low superheat. Subcooling's right in line. Outdoor air temp's still nice and cool. We have a really good, really big temperature split, 23 degrees. But look at that airflow, 3,400 CFMs. That's very low for a 1,200 CFM. I think there might be something messed up there. I put a new belt on it. I don't think we're running 3,400 CFMs. That's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna swap over to the second stage and see what the second stage is acting like, and then we'll go from there. All right, and this is our second stage. It's also not looking horrendous. It's still coming down right now. It's like my suction line disappeared for a minute. Let's let it reconnect. There we go. So superheat, again, it's still kind of coming down, but superheat's somewhat okay. Outdoor air temp, same. That airflow is still really low though. That's interesting. That's a very interesting airflow. Let's make sure that we're still set up right. Yeah, we're still set up for a 12.5 ton. It's actually a package unit, not that that's going to make a difference. Piston, auto-calculated, R22. Everything looks fine. That airflow though, what is going on there? We're going to have to investigate that airflow, but my unit's definitely running. Let's see what our static's at. Static's 1.46, so it's still a little bit high. It's expected that it would have gone up a little bit because I actually tightened up the belt. Before the belt was super loose, so now it's tight. I'm gonna shut the unit down and investigate the indoor blower to see how dirty it is. I don't think it's that dirty, but we're gonna look at that. having airflow problems, and I had looked at the return air grill and it looked clean, but I got up there with the ladder and it's actually plugged up. So what I did temporarily, I talked to them. They're a pain in the butt and they're cooking right where the returns are right now. This economizer's unhooked and not working. So I went ahead and closed down the damper, opened it up for outside air right now. This isn't gonna be good when it gets hot, but this will get them by until they clean their return air grill. And then we'll be able to come in here and fix it after that. All right, this guy is back up and running temporarily. They got to clean that return air grill downstairs. Like I showed you, I opened up the economizer damper. It's not operating right now, so. But while I'm working, I happened to notice the entire time this exhaust fan wasn't running. This is also in front of that reach-in and would affect the kitchen temperatures drastically. This is their fryer exhaust fan. So we got to get this thing dialed in and running. Motor's not hot. Switch is on, so I got to dive into that and see what's going on there. But this, I need to go ahead and put all the panels back on and take all my probes off, so I'm done with it for now. Jumping on this, exhaust fan is not running, belt is okay. Switch was on. It is not hot. I haven't checked voltage, but the switch has a funny, it feels funny when you actuate it. But I turned the switch off because more than likely we're gonna have a tripped motor starter. So I'm gonna go downstairs, find them, see if I need to reset it, and then we'll figure out what's going on. Before I reset it, I tested power, there's no power, and then I tested to ground to see if there's any direct shorts. There's not, but you're not gonna be able to hear it because of that dang exhaust fan next to me, but this thing is making a funky bearing noise when I spin it inside. So I have a feeling we have a bad motor, but we're gonna go down and reset that motor starter first. It's their makeup air unit, and this isn't working either. If I remember before the whole COVID thing, the unit has a bad bearing. I know it's not gonna focus, but it's blown apart. So here's my motor starter right here. So we're gonna reset it. It's reset. Now we're gonna figure out what's going on. Let's try to power this guy back on. Hope it don't blow up on me. There's nothing worse than that. I was getting ready to switch that thing on and that scared the crap out of me. Interesting. So it's running. It doesn't sound good though. We're gonna amp it out and see what happens. Interesting, it's not over amping. It's allowed to run 3.4 amps. Is that the one that was tripped? Or is it the other one? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's doing okay. Interesting. It has a weird sound in it though. I guess it's always possible, I mean, it's working. It's always possible that it tripped when they were having the hoods cleaned or something. Although these don't really look like they've been cleaned recently. I'm gonna watch it for a bit. I returned today to follow up. It did not trip again, okay? But I still hear this weird metallic sound in the motor. There's something going on in the bearings. Belt looks okay. The fan itself is in okay shape. That one needs to be clean. That's why it's making that whistling sound. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this apart. I already talked to the customer. We're gonna change this motor. Even though it's still working, it's overheating, and I just hear that sound, and it's just more of a preemptive thing. So we're gonna get this guy swapped out. I'm thinking to make this go easier, I think I'm gonna disconnect power right here, and I think I'm gonna just set the fan on the ground. That way I'm not bent like in that weird awkward position up there. Just putting the fan on the ground will make it so much easier, so I'm gonna try that. All right, that makes it a lot easier. This is not a very heavy fan for lifting it for a short distance. This way I can bend over and do this work and not have to be in that awkward position of doing that. So I simply just unhooked the electrical and unhooked the bolt for the hinge, and I'll put a cinder block under it just to protect the hinge brackets from bending, because they are kind of putting some pressure on those hinge brackets. So I'll just put a cinder block under the fan right there, just so it's not putting pressure on that hinge. We are going to start by removing the cover to the switch. If you notice, there's a very small piece of conduit, so that's going to make it hard to pull the fan out or the motor out. This guy sits on a bracket, so if we pull these two bolts, and same on the other side, this whole bracket will come out, but we got to unhook the electrical from the switch first. And then while we're in there too, we'll make sure we grease those bearings. and investigate this pulley. I have a feeling this pulley is going to be fine, but I have a new one for this. So got the old motor out, got the switch out. Check this out. Here's my motor down here, and it has a play in the shaft, which is more than likely the sound that I was hearing. It moves back and forth. Yeah, so good call on pulling this thing out. You know, sometimes you got to trust your gut. It was making a silly sound. Yeah, we could go through and play with it and stuff, but I didn't check the shaft play, which would have been an easy thing for me to check, just to pull the belt off and check it, but I trust my gut. Also, I don't care for resilient mount motors for exhaust fans. Really don't care for them, because after time, the resilient rubber mount will become loose and the motor will start to twist. So whenever possible, I try to put in a rigid base, a welded base without the resilient mount. I'm working on wiring in the new motor, and I was going to use the existing conduit, but as I was trying to tighten the wires, they were breaking on the ends. So they're just brittle, and like right here, it was starting to crack, and it's just pretty brittle. So like right here, it won't bend. So got some new wire. We're going to run it in the same conduit. I don't like that conduit, but it's going to be hard to get 1/2 inch seal tied in there. I brought a bunch of fittings too that I might need, so we're going to get this figured out. All right, depending on whether or not it's phased correctly, the color combination was black, blue, red. Okay, so I wired it up black to line 1, blue to line 2, red to line 3. If the color combination is correct, it's fine. If not, we can switch it at that junction box right there. So we've got these guys all wired, and on top of that, I pulled the ground in here. The old motor was a resilient mount. It's very important that if you have a resilient mount, that you're grounding it out. Now, there was a ground wire running from the motor to the bracket, but still, I prefer to have a ground wire as opposed to just grounding it out to the unit. You understand what I'm saying? They didn't necessarily have it grounded out to the unit. They just had a ground wire from the motor to the bracket, assuming that the motor's grounded. You know, I mean, you could run into a problem. So it's very important that when you can, sometimes you can't, but when you can, you want to make sure that there's a dedicated ground wire being tied into a ground source. So I ran a ground in this conduit, new wire. I'm going to button it up, and then we're going to put the motor in and then figure out this wiring into the switch. All right, so I greased up the bearings. I tried to clean them up as best as possible. This lower bearing's going bad. I'll talk to the customer about that. The seals are pretty bad on these bearings too, because right when you pump it in, it immediately comes out. So we'll definitely bring that up to the customer, see if they want to change the bearings on this guy. But we're going to keep on going with the repair because they need the fan running ASAP. All right, we are in. I've got the pulley set where I think it needs to go, but I did not tighten down the set screw yet. I've got the key pushed in. I'll put a level on it once we get it back over there, and we'll make sure that we've got a nice good surface. I'd like to put a belt on here, but I don't have one, so they're going to be okay though. We'll be back. But the belt is just got some stress cracks in it, but it's not over tightened. It's nice and good. We're going to get it electrically wired in, and then get it set back over there. Man, this thing's kicking my ass. All right, so we got it all in. I just need to put this fitting to close up this end. New switch, nice and tight. Wires are good. Ran out. And we just got to lift it over and hook it up. All right, we're getting ready to start this up. I've still got to wire tape those, but I need to make sure phase rotation is correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a level on this guy. Looks relatively level, left to right, front to back, somewhat level. Okay, nothing perfect. And I already eyeballed this, and I think it was good, but we're going to check to make sure that it's level, and it is. So I think we're good on that. I'm going to go ahead and torque down the pulley, and then we'll start it up and check phase rotation. All right, I had manually tripped the motor starter, so we're gonna reset it. Okay, and we can power it on via the 3-phase switch now to see if we're going in the right direction. Our rotation that we want is this way. You can see the little arrow thing right there. Let's bump it. And we have correct phase rotation. So I'm gonna go ahead and bump it and then stand away because it's probably gonna blow some dust, and then I'll work on getting the hinges and stuff, and we'll check current draw. So here we go. Yeah, it's blowing stuff all over the place. Running good. Now we need to check current draw. All right, we were allowed to run like 3.47 amps, so we're good. And I set it to the old pulley, so that's good. We're gonna let it run for a bit, and I'm gonna start cleaning up some stuff. All together, we put a new motor, new power switch, new motor pulley, and then while I was going through it, kind of like you guys saw, I ended up replacing the electrical wire in the first conduit going from the switch to the motor. And then I realized that they had non-metallic conduit with metallic fittings in so it was plastic conduit, and it was real rigid, and there was no ground in it. So I went ahead and repaired all that, ran a ground, ran metallic conduit. Fan is up and running like it should be. A couple other things, you know, I want to change that bearing, or bearings I should say. This makeup air unit's not working, so I'm going to take down some information off of it so we can quote it. It has a busted bearing. So I'll get all that information. We can quote that too.
Wow. One thing leads to another, right? That one started as a service call on a reach-in cooler. I gave a little context on the reach-in cooler. There's really not much more I can do to it. I gave them a quote to get the entire thing, redesign it, put fan motors in different places. It was crazy, stupid expensive. And they said they were going to replace it, and then all this craziness happened, and they stopped everything. So they're just limping along. We went back and forth throughout the summer with the reach-in. The condense is just silly, okay? But anyways, while I was there, every time I go out there, I still don't just go in and say, I know this thing's a piece of junk and do this. I still go through all the steps. And going through the steps and diagnosing the reach-in, I found that it was kind of warm in the kitchen, right? And my first instinct was to go to the kitchen AC, hence why I started. The kitchen AC had a really, really loose belt with a bunch of breaks in it. The coils were dirty. The filters were plugged. Dialed that in, found that the return air grill was plugged up, of which they have since cleaned it, but they never called me back to go through and troubleshoot anymore on the unit. So I'm assuming that the return air grill fixed the problem. Although I will say that the economizer is still open because I never went back out there and closed that economizer down. So, hey, one of those things. You get them going and then tell them, you know, give me a call once you fix it, and they don't have you come back out. So it is what it is, right? Then while I was there, I noticed too that the exhaust fan wasn't working. So it's that whole big picture mindset. I'm not ripping the customer off. I'm not doing anything they don't want to do. I'm simply there for a reach-in cooler. And then I ask them, you know, there's some other things that could be causing problems. It seems kind of warm. Has your AC been working? Oh, no, it's been kind of warm. Will you check it out? Look into the AC, and then I find that the exhaust fan isn't working. This kind of stuff is happening more and more. Especially with these restaurants in Southern California, or in California for the most part, not being open to in-person dining. They're only open to outside dining, so they're not as busy, and they're not noticing when things break as much or as fast, you know. Surprisingly, this is a kitchen AC, so you think they would notice this one, but hey, you know what? This stuff happens. This also was at the beginning of the summer, so it wasn't extremely hot yet. Had it been like this, you know, in August, they probably would have called me right away because, you know, it was 110, 115 degrees outside. But this video is just the beginning of June. So went through the AC, found the exhaust fan, found a motor bad, or motor going bad, you know, and just gave the customer all the information. I let them make the decisions, okay? I'm not the one here pushing equipment down their throats or anything like that. I just say, hey, look, here's the deal. This thing's filthy. I have to clean this AC before I can tell you anything else about it, you know? This exhaust fan, the motor's making noise. I can't guarantee anything until we replace that motor. Then we can check everything else out, okay? So that whole big picture thing, not walking into the restaurant with a set of blinders on. It's really easy to do that, especially when it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you just want to get off work, you know, still go in there. It doesn't mean I'm not going to go in there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and spend 12 hours there. But hey, if I can get, you know, if I see anything else going on or hear anything and say, hey, would you mind if I come back and dig into that a little bit more? Then we come back another day. In this situation, I got the exhaust fan running and then came back the next day, you know, once I give them a quote to replace the motor, or I think it was a day or two later, but anyways, came back. So it was running that entire time, but I was able to come back another day. So it's not like I had to do all that work in one day, you know? I was able to make a list of things that were wrong, bring it to the customer, and let them approve everything. Now, ironically, we still haven't been approved to fix that makeup air unit, and that's been down since before, I want to say that makeup air unit has been down since probably November of 2019, I think. So it's been down for quite a while, you know? So it's funny how that works, right? You know, they approve some things, but other things, if it's not a huge issue, they don't want to fix it. So, you know, hey, I'm not here to judge or anything like that. I'm just thankful that I get the opportunity to bring these problems to their attention and that they use me to fix these issues, right? So I'm thankful for that. And I'm also thankful for you guys for watching these videos. I appreciate all the feedback. I appreciate all the support. Thank you guys so very much. I said it in the beginning. If you haven't already, check out the website, hvacrvideos.com. Shirts, hats, merch available. Are you triggered? Check it out. You know, also, if you guys are interested, if you're looking to purchase any tools, check out truetechtools.com. Use my offer code BIGPICTURE, one word, to save 8% on your order. And that's it. Live stream Monday evening, 5 p.m. Pacific, work permitting and my neck permitting. The previous week I didn't do a live stream because my neck was killing me, but I'm feeling a little bit better now. So still got weird nerve crap in my neck, but whatever. It's part of getting old, I guess. So yeah, live stream Monday evening, 5 p.m. Pacific on YouTube, work permitting. And then I also go live on the HVAC Overtime YouTube channel on Friday evenings about 6:05 p.m. with my buddies. So come check that out too. And yeah, that's it. We will catch you on the next one, okay?